Greetings, fellow seekers. You might be on the personal growth journey at some stage or other, and you may be unaware of which stage you're at. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to break down 5 stages of personal growth for you, and you can work out which stage you're at. I'll tell you what the difference is between the different stages, some of the symptoms and signs of the stages, and I'll also end with a brief caution about how the danger zones and the traps lie in wait for you. But first, let's talk about the different stages. I've drawn from Eugene Schwartz's work in 1966 about the 5 stages of consumer awareness as inspiration for this. I thought, well, one principle is often good for several things. So let's dig in and have a look at the different stages of personal growth awareness. The first stage may be that you are actually unaware, and you may just go through life thinking, well, that's just the way it is. You may have various symptoms of this. It may be that when things go wrong you seek to blame others. You may seek to avoid responsibilities. You may be looking for an aha. You may overcompensate. So you may get up bushy-tailed and bright one morning and say, this is it, today's the day. And you burn bright for a couple of days and then it fades. Perfectly natural, perfectly normal, because you're groping. You're groping in the dark, really. In short, your life becomes one extended coping mechanism. And it's not that you are broken. As I've said in previous presentations, a person is never truly broken. However, as humans, we are very adaptive. And what's happened is that you have a worldview and an upbringing, and a series of events have happened to you in your life, and you've just become adapted. And so you're unaware of any problems that may be there. And any problems that arise, you will seek to distribute the responsibility for those problems to other people by blaming them or accusing them. What you've done is you've developed a coping mechanism and you are in an adaptive state. Nothing wrong with that, except what is waiting for you is a life better lived if you follow the right processes. Most people consume without subscribing. I do it myself regularly with other channels, so I understand. But if you do get an opportunity to hit the bell, or hit a like, or make a comment, or subscribe, hey, there are 4 choices, 4 ways that you can make this old man happy. So the next stage, second stage of personal growth development is problem awareness. Suddenly, a door may open or a glimpse of light may occur and you start to realize that you do have problems. There are itches you can't scratch. And the word problem, of course, is problematic, because when you see things as a problem, then by some kind of inverted logic it means that there's something wrong with you. So let's look at challenges instead. You realize that you're facing certain challenges and you start to think in terms of, well, if I had X, then Y would happen. If I had that beautiful girl, my life would be perfect. If I were to win lottery, all my problems would be over. Well, guess what? If you had that beautiful girl or you won the lottery, your problems would only just be beginning. So what you've got is you're trapped in a cycle of silver bullet thinking. You think that one silver bullet is going to slay the werewolf. You're going to buy useless shit, you're going to take useless advice, and you're going to be seeking some kind of guru. It may be a book in an op shop, it may be somebody online, it may be a course, it may be, well, whatever, a podcast. So what you're doing at this stage of your personal growth development is you're waiting for an aha moment, a single principle or idea that's going to solve all of the challenges that you're facing. In short, you are now evolving from merely adapted to becoming a seeker, a fellow seeker if you like. The third stage is outcome awareness. You've developed problem awareness, and now you realize that there are outcomes that you want, that there are ways that you want to advance yourself in your life and improve your life and improve actual outcomes. And so you will start thinking to yourself, well, maybe this can help, maybe so-and-so can help, maybe this program, maybe this course, maybe this approach. And so now you're entering into what is often known as uninformed optimism. You know there's something, but you don't know what it is precisely. You become active, you become purposeful, and you become aware that the quality of the decisions that you make are going to have more impact or major impacts on your life and your outcomes. Previously, you may not have dwelt on the quality of your decisions because you thought that your answers were outside of yourself. But slowly, what you're seeking now is consistency, and you're starting to see the answers to the challenges you face are actually within yourself. But that doesn't mean that you can't seek assistance. It just means that the decisions you make and the assistance that you seek is now more directed and purposeful. The fourth stage is what I call method awareness. You're now in an activation phase. And method awareness means that you realize that there are systems and processes that you can apply. And you start thinking smaller. Instead of trying everything on the smorgasbord of personal development and personal growth table, you start to realize there is a specific dish that you want to taste and you want to try. And so you start to focus on specifics. You're looking for the smallest incremental changes you can make to an effective system in order to get your outcomes. You're no longer looking for everything. You're now looking for something. And you are emotionally in an experimental phase. You're curious, you're energized, and you are more awake, for want of a better word. You're more conscious that there are systems you can use and you can apply them. And not only can you apply them, you can apply them in a way which fits your lifestyle and your needs. You're going to try, and you're going to try. But you also may wonder sometimes why it isn't working. You're starting to develop a realistic understanding of the power of consistency. But unfortunately, you may be lacking in consistency because there's still some shred or residual part of you emotionally that thinks you can just nail it in one go. Earlier, I suggested that there are pitfalls and traps within some of these stages of awareness. So let's look at those. Stage 2, where you are problem aware. Stage 3, where you are outcome aware. And stage 4, where you are method aware, is the danger zone. And the reason it's the danger zone is because you may be fired largely or mostly by emotion still at this stage. You are literally on an emotional roller coaster. You are in a vulnerable stage of uninformed optimism, and that can lead to some dire consequences if you're not ready for it. I will talk more about this in the next video, so I'll break that down for you. So if you ever get yourself into a project and wonder, why do I keep failing at this? Why do I keep going back and pressing reset or rewind? Why can't I just stick with it? Well, I'll explain that to you in the next video. Just bear in mind that there are challenges, traps, pitfalls, snares, whatever you want to call them, that can emerge when you start to develop yourself and you start to be more purposefully and actively engaged in personal growth. It's nothing new. It's just the way it is. And I'm not saying that in a defeatist manner, I'm just informing you of the facts. So let's look at the final stage. The final stage of awareness for personal growth. This is the consistent awareness and testing phase. In the consistent awareness and testing phase, you're going to be going on a journey, on a self-imposed seeking exploration, which is going to mean something to you. It's not something that's going to be applied to you or taken from the exterior or from someone else. It's going to be literally your own purpose that you are applying for the love of it. You're going to say, I'm going to try this, I'm going to improve this, and I'm going to do this consistently because I'm really keen to see what will happen. You're taking a professional interest, not an emotional interest, in how you develop your own personal growth. You become more scientific, you become more applied, more dedicated, and you become, and this is important, more specific in your aims. We live in an information overload, an information inflation era, and so there is so much choice available to us. But the mark of a true specialist is that they can drill down into specifics. Specific specialist. Clues in the words. You may now apply systems that you trust, that you have won the hard way, and that you know are subject to refinement and adaptation, and that means something to you personally. You are now no longer emotionally driven, now no longer driven by your ego or the desires of your ego. You are now an objective, scientific participant in a lifelong experiment, and it's a great place to be. Finally, you will feel that you are in the driver's seat. Going from merely being adapted, being the third dog, the learned helplessness, you become a seeker, you then crave consistency, and then you start to understand how to apply consistency, and then finally you're just going to do it for the hell of it because you love it. And I would suggest, in terms of personal growth, once you get to that stage where you've got specific things that you want to do, specific systems that treat you well and that you trust, and you just want to get up in the morning and have a go at these things for the sheer heck of it, you're at stage number 5. When you're in stage number 5, you may be a little bit out of the woods, and as I've said before though, stages 2, 3 and 4 can be danger zones because of the amount of emotion that is invested into that growth. In the next video, I will give you my interpretation of why that happens. I will draw from respected and proven psychological elements, and I will put my own Lee Clark Academy slant on it so that it can be digestible to normal folk like you and me. On many of the bigger channels, if you subscribe to them, they don't give a shit because they haven't got a clue who you are. You make very little impact. But on my channel, when you subscribe to me, I will say thank you most kindly because it means that much to me. So keep them coming, keep subscribing, and let's do this thing together. I think the most fascinating elements of this journey and this voyage that we can choose to take is how it affects us emotionally. Often we don't know the emotions that we're experiencing until the very end. In the beginning stages, the emotions we experience tend to be quite negative. They tend to be based around blame and transference, projection, blaming other people, blaming other situations and circumstances. But as we go through the process of personal growth development, we start to develop a need to find solutions. And of course, that need to find solutions must have its own evolution, emotionally speaking. As much as we'd like to think that we can just flick a switch and change ourselves overnight, that's simply not true. What got me thinking about this was the number of self-help gurus I see in podcasts who tell me about some aha moment they had, or some life-changing circumstance, or some brief encounter. If only life were that simple. No, the truth of it is, in order to grow personally, one has to transition through a series of emotional responses before true ownership can happen. You go from blame and avoidance into silver bullet thinking, where you think that one special action or one rescuer is going to be the solution to all of your challenges. And then emotionally you start to realize that the cavalry isn't coming. It's not a bad thing to realize this, because it means that you're now emotionally nudging yourself closer and closer to being the architect of your own success, rather than trying to outsource your success to other people, or seeking some kind of guru, rescuer, or knight in shining armor. Then what happens is that emotionally you start to engage in an uninformed optimism. Now, uninformed optimism is a wonderful feeling, a little bit like motivation. However, the dopamine spikes and the addictive qualities of uninformed optimism can cause somebody to fall by the wayside, because rather than seeing a project through and going through to the next stage of their emotional evolution, they may prefer to stay in a comfort zone of feel-good dopamine optimism. So this is why this stage 3, can be dangerous, because emotionally you could find yourself quite vulnerable. Even though you're starting to promote a more active and purposeful outlook, you're still quite emotional in your circumstances and in your emotional life. And uninformed optimism is a big feature of that. Hold on to the good feeling. Hold on to almost the naivety. But don't feel that this is going to be the answer to your problems. Good feelings. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, remember. Good feelings alone are not going to solve the challenges that you face. So be prepared for that emotionally. And then emotionally you might develop into a more experimental phase. You may become more personally engaged and feel a better sense of ownership about your own curiosity. You may start to ask questions that never occurred to you before. The reason you're asking questions that never occurred to you before is because now, on an emotional level, you are better equipped to answer those questions. And often we never ask ourselves a question that we can't answer. Unfortunately, in the early stages, emotionally, we may ask ourselves questions that we certainly can answer, but they may be questions like, why am I such a loser? Or why do I always fail? What happens is that as you go through the personal growth stages of development, you start to apply more intelligent questions to yourself. Questions you can answer surely, but don't have a negative impact or consequence for you. They don't leave you feeling vulnerable and scared. They leave you feeling empowered and proactive. So let's go for that stage, because finally, emotionally, you become reasonably detached. The final stage of that personal development growth, or personal growth per se, is that you become more objective, more scientific, a little bit more dispassionate. You do feel the emotion, and you feel the thrill and the kick of being able to take charge of your own destiny to a greater extent. That's where the emotional life becomes a different kind of thing. Whereas once before, emotions were a consequence, a reaction, a response. Now your emotions are a proactive and controlling hand on the rudder. The kinds of decisions you're making are based on the kinds of emotions you're feeling. And the kinds of emotions you're feeling at the 5th stage of your personal growth are positive, assertive, and informed emotions. Isn't that fascinating? And the most fascinating thing about this is that it's never too late to engage in this process. We are neuroplastic. We can continue to learn and adapt all the way throughout our lives. If we so desire, we can engage in a new voyage or a new journey of self-discovery anytime we wish. Don't expect a silver bullet. Don't expect a knight on a shining... Let me say that again. But don't expect a silver bullet to slay your werewolves. Don't expect a guru to be the answer to your problems. Don't expect the cavalry to come to your rescue. Forget about that. Those are entitled thoughts. They're emotionally loaded thoughts. However, if you are willing to take charge of your emotions and take charge of your own journey, you can enjoy that growth and that transition through those stages and emerge through into the light almost at the far end of it. It's a fascinating way to go about your business. I strongly suggest you give it a shot. And so, fellow seeker, I'd like to get going now. And so before I go, I'll leave you with my one final thought. And that is, whatever it is you dare to do or dream, begin it now.